Hello, and welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches from around the nation that are making the big time where they are at. This episode is brought to you by TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr is the software for strength and conditioning coaches. Join the thousands of coaches that log into TeamBuildr every day to write training programs, build questionnaires, and access and track athlete data. TeamBuildr is compatible with mobile devices, laptops, tablets, and TVs, which makes it the perfect software for any setting. If you sign up with code BIGTIME, you will receive a 25% discount on the Sports Science Certification course. Build the foundational skills necessary to manage data and learn how to transform that data into actionable assets for your program. You will also receive a free 10-week summer football programming template, which works automatically within your TeamBuildr 14-day free trial. No more spreadsheets and workout cards to track training maxes that change day by day, especially during breaks. Head to TeamBuildr.com and sign up with code BIGTIME to save time and paper today. This episode is also brought to you by Powerlift. Taking your athletic facility from concept to completion can be a challenge. At Powerlift, it is our goal to make the process as seamless as possible from start to finish. Our weight room equipment is made with the toughest materials that can withstand excessive use from coaches and athletes. It's sought after for its unique design, customizable appearance, affordability, and our superior warranty that training facilities want and need. Our weight rooms are designed with the athlete in mind, and we pride ourselves on our ability to outfit athletic facilities based on a team's unique goals. That's why high schools, colleges, universities, professional sport teams, and athletic performance facilities around the world have chosen us to help maximize their strength training facilities. Call us today to be contacted with a rep in your area and give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter to see for yourself why our clients are Powerlift proud. Now let's get to this week's episode.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. This is episode number 155, and I'm excited to bring on 6 other coaches. It's a big roundtable. It's going to be a lot of fun, and we're talking about summer training. They're going to have the opportunity to introduce themselves. So I'm going to let them do that. But just so that you know, we are going to dive in what it looks like structure-wise, what it looks like for programming, and then how they're making the big time where they're at, making a big time experience for their kids. So excited to hop in with that. Coach Hoover, do you want to open us up with the introduction?
Sure. Mark Hoover, I'm the Director of Strength Conditioning at York Comprehensive High School in York, South Carolina.
I'm Jessica Gust from St. Louis Park High School in Minnesota.
I'm Adam Lane. I'm from Decatur Central High School, Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm the head strength and sports performance director there.
I'm Robbie Cole. I'm at Travelers Rest High School in Greenville, South Carolina.
I'm Adam Vogel. I'm the head strength coach and athletic performance director for Bradley Bourbonnais Community High School. And actually, I'll be starting this summer at Homewood Flossmoor High School in Illinois.
My name is Doug Lee. I'm a PE teacher, strength and conditioning coach at Traverse City Central High School in Northern Michigan.
Awesome. So that's a roundtable. Excited to get rolling here. First, we can hop in, and this will be basically any order that the coaches want to hop in and talk about their program. But what we're looking at is the kind of the setup, the structure of your summer training. And that could be a number of different ways or angles that you can take that. But to me, what I'm thinking is the number of days that you train, maybe the number of weeks that you're training, if you have any off weeks, and then what it looks like for session length, and maybe how you break that down. So a lot of different angles you can take, coaches, however you want to hop in on that.
We go at York Comprehensive, we go 4 days a week. School's closed on Friday. And this season we'll start at 7:15 and roll through about 1:30. Football goes in 3 different groups, freshmen. Then they'll have basically how we're going to split this year is skill guys, JV and varsity, and linemen, JV and varsity. And then morning before that, we got girls basketball varsity. They usually train at a different time, but he wanted to have his own time this year. Then we've got a girls session, a guy session after that for other sports. And we'll be off we graduate next Friday. We're off the following week, Memorial Day weekend. There's nothing. We're off the 4th of July, and then the third week of July this year for our clinic. So I think we have 5 total weeks before fall sports start.
I have a similar schedule being in South Carolina with the dead weeks. We got the same 4th of July dead week. The week he mentions at the end of July is the clinic. It's in Greenville where I'm coaching. So technically, Mark, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but we're allowed to train that week, but the kids can't do sports specific activities. So we might actually be able to get some training in that week. But here lately, the last few summers, we've been lucky to get a good 6-week cycle in the summer with that break in the middle with the 4th of July. It depends on when you get out of school, if it's 6.5 or 5.5. But football wise, we're going 4 days a week. I mean, I'm there 4 days a week with various teams. We have a new staff, so I'm actually still hammering out some of the details with them when we get into some of the programming details. But we have 9 a.m. 4 days a week with varsity and JV football rolling through in a 2-hour window. And then they've also got field work with their position coaches. I have volleyball coming in 2 days a week with their team, but they also sporadically come in at some of my open sessions for additional work. I have a middle school time. I used to do that at 8 a.m., but the coaches want to move that into the evening. A lot of those coaches are not teachers and they work in the summer. So probably going to have an open session at 8 a.m., football at 9 and 10, open session at 11. Usually go a little long with that one. So it's kind of like 2 sessions. So they can come at 11 or they can come closer to 12, 11:45 and roll through, because that's not a team time period. Football and volleyball are the only 2 teams that ask for specific times just for them. And then, cross country will come. Lots of athletes from other teams will come through those open sessions. So that's my schedule for the moment.
We run 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, and I start my first group at 7 a.m. Our school, they won't open the school earlier for us, so we got to start at 7. We run 3 high school sessions, and all of our groups are mixed. So we've got a mix of all sports in all 3 of our high school groups, and then we run a middle school session after that. We go 75 minutes, and we've got a 4th of July dead week too, but we get out of school really late. So our last day of school is June 9th, so we won't be starting our summer training till the 13th of June. We've tried doing PM sessions and sport-specific sessions, and it just doesn't work out. We have so many multi-sport athletes that for us, it works better for the kids to be able to pick a time session that works for them instead of scheduling by sport.
So at Bradley Bourbonnais, it's going to be 2 different things. At Bradley Bourbonnais, what we got going on, we really got it rolling in the summer. So we get 8 weeks. And we kind of treat it like in season though, because the only week that we have off is the first week of August. They have a dead week before we start our fall sports. And so some things that we ran into is that they have 25 contact days for all of our different sports. And so we kind of treat it like it's in season because they also are playing their travel and club teams as well. And so we go Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and we'll go an upper lower split on Monday, Tuesday, so that we can kind of give them their legs a chance to recover from the weekend, because that's usually when they're doing their tournaments. And then we'll do a full body on Thursday, and we do about an hour and 20-minute sessions at the most. Usually it's an hour and 15. We'll do like 30 minutes of movement work, and then we'll do about 40 minutes of lifting and strength work, strength and power work. And then those that do need more capacity work, we have something called Red Dawns that we do on Friday mornings. It's completely optional. They can also use it to make up any lifts they might have missed, and that's where we're doing more of the type of conditioning stuff. So that's where we take our catapult data and we make sure that they get all the XLD cells and make sure that they get their top end work that they need to do a little bit extra of, and also make sure that they're hitting all their loads, things along those lines. If they're under or if they're over, they can come, but we'll shut down some of the stuff because of all the things they're doing in season. And when I say we got rolling, I mean, we go from kindergarten all the way up through high school. So we do a lot of Jeremy Frisch type stuff that you'd see, like old school PE things with obstacle courses and animal games with the little kids. And then when I get to middle school, we start to do the 1x20 stuff and body weight stuff with those athletes. And then our incoming freshmen, they'll start with that for the first 6 weeks, and then we'll gradually put them into dumbbell, kettlebell work, things along those lines once they've shown that they have the proper movement patterns.
In Indianapolis, we're kind of that same schedule, a little bit like Vogel was saying in Illinois. We have the dead week in the end of July there, but we also have the one in the beginning of July as well, somewhat similar to South Carolina as well. But we train 7 weeks. Yeah, we have a dead week the last of July, but most of our coaches are teachers in the building. They want that week off, but I'm there doing work. So I still have training sessions, but I don't promote it saying, hey, we're going to train that week. The kids just kind of know it's a moratorium week, but the coaches won't be there and we're still training. So, but we're going 3 days a week. Last year, this is my second year at Decatur. We went 4 days, and I didn't feel like the enrollment was as high as I wanted it to be during the training sessions. So we're going 3 days, and we average about 65, 75 kids a class during the school day. So I want to kind of keep the numbers high because I like the energy. I like the juice of the kids. I don't like, just 15 kids showing up and it's for 1 hour. I'd rather have more kids there and really get the energy going. The kids are still competing normally like school. I want to run it just like the school year. So middle school wise, we bring our stud 8th grade and 7th grade kids over who are very involved with their programs. They train with us, but we don't open it up to all the 7th grade because we don't really have 7th and 8th grade kids because we don't really have the room for it. But we want to promote, because that's what we've been doing this second part of our semester. We've been bringing over our incoming freshmen, upcoming 8th grade, upcoming 7th grade kids, studs over to train. So they'll continue that kind of culture building into the high school as they progress. So we'll go 7 weeks, 3 days a week, 8 to 1:30 every day.
Our summer is actually really short up here in Northern Michigan. We get out really late, like the 17th of June. So we end up with basically a 5-week summer, but our kids are in class. So it's not like we lose any time. But during the summer, the true summer, we have 1 dead week in the middle and then 5 weeks of training. We divide our kids up by sport loosely. Our school doesn't actually give me a stipend. So we created a camp system that we have where we partner different teams up and they pay for time slots. And it ends up being anywhere from $25 to $50 a kid. So we start off at 7 a.m. and we have a football, basketball group. We have a soccer boys and girls group, a volleyball and girls basketball group. And we spread them out throughout the day. Most of our group sizes are somewhere around 45. Then we also run a middle school camp. When I say middle school, we actually go 4th grade through 8th grade, where we run a camp where I have 8 coaches working with me to give them some of the basic fun, make it fun and do agility and tag and time sprints and things like that.
That's an awesome overview for 6 different coaches and all the things that they're doing from state to state, and all their contact information will be in the show notes. So if you hear a situation and how they're implementing and you're like, man, that's something that I'd like to do, you'll be able to reach out to these coaches. Our next question, and kind of flows into it now that you know their structures, is how they program within that. What are they emphasizing? What's it look like for their movement stuff? What's it look like for their actual training, power and strength training within the weight room? And from there, you only have 5 to what was the longest, 7 weeks or something that people said, how are you trying to maximize that time? For me in Iowa, it's a little bit different because we still have in-season sports. We have baseball and softball going on, but for the most part, it's still wild, wild west as far as, every sport team is trying to get as much work in as they can. And that's kind of the nature of the beast for our situation because so many multi-sport athletes. So what's it look like for you, your programming, and the things that you emphasize within your program?
I'll go first. Football goes 4 days a week. The rest of them go 3 in general. We're going to go, they practice. So my freshmen will come in at 8 o'clock, 8 to 9, and they will get, we'll do our speed stuff with them, our movement stuff with them. We'll be doing the XPE movement stuff along with our sprint stuff this summer. And then they'll do their 1x20. And then they go out and we'll kind of do the same thing with the female group that comes, the next female group that comes in. And then varsity football is after that. And it's a 4-day, and I'm a 3-day guy, but tier system guy, but in the summer, just because that's how it fits into the football schedule, we end up going to a 4-day schedule, going up and upper lower, and with some total in there. But we will basically you have an hour and a half, so 2 45-minute sessions. One will be in the weight room and one will be doing linear speed, lateral speed on opposite days, and then our gain speed, change direction, plyometrics stuff, 45 minutes. And then in the weight room, 45 minutes. So we get our 2 tiers in. We're pretty, especially football, we're Olympic, heavy. So we'll do our cleans and our clean variations. And then, we'll squat twice a week, 2 different variations. And we'll do our presses and our pulls and then get them out of there. Kind of the same. We stick more with a true 3-day tier system with the other sports because I see them 3 days. And, just depending on what's going on is what our focus will be with their speed and plyometric, program.
I'm not sure about you guys. You feel like it's for me, I feel like it's time for me to set the reset button. So it's a chance for us to kind of start over with a lot of things. As far as what I mean by that is like, we'll break down our right now we're finishing up hitting goals and things like that. So they've been doing cleans from the floor, snatches from the floor, things like that. So we start going back to clean pulls from the hang, clean pulls from the power position. We'll start working from the floor a little bit. We'll break those things down, adding front squats and combos in it too as well. We'll also do partials with our squats and work on areas that might be weak points, like the bottom position and things like that. We'll do a lot of overhead squats and front squats the first couple weeks just to kind of regress a little bit of the stuff that we've done because we've been going so hard throughout the entire school year. So that's some of the stuff that we'll kind of break it up a little bit differently that way. As far as I'm going to new school next year, and so I'm starting out this summer just working with football and a couple of wrestlers. And so usually, I think it'll be interesting. I don't know your guys' thoughts on it. I know Adam, you just went to a new school. So it'll be kind of interesting to hear from you. They already kind of got some things established. It's hard to start from square one when they only got a couple months before they start their season, And so I'm trying to find that fine line with that, But then other than that, with our emphasis, I've talked about before, how we emphasize hey, movement work, or we're emphasizing strength or emphasizing power, they still fall into whatever phases that they're emphasizing. So we don't stop those things, even though we might break things down and regress. We're still training at whatever the athlete needs as far as developmentally.
I'm so glad you said that because I was going to say the same thing about revisiting sort of that foundation piece. For me, because we've got so many multi-sport athletes, the summer is really the only time where I have the opportunity to have sort of everybody doing the same thing at the same time. And I use the summer to kind of set up all of the in-season stuff that they're going to see for the next year. So I want to make sure that any kid that's showing up in the summer, when they come back and roll through for in-season, I can use those kids to help peer coach the kids that weren't showing up in the summer. And so I use that time to revisit specifically the clean progression for us, because I don't teach that in season. So I want to make sure that kids that are there in the summer have that all set to go so they can use it in season. Then we do a different modification for kids that don't know the clean for their in-season workouts. But that foundation piece for us is so critical, and we've got a huge variety because we do all mixed groups. I've got kids that it's literally their first day in the weight room and kids that have been in there now for 7 years with me. So I try to program, we do a 4-day tier, and with the more experienced kids, we'll drop in a little bit of triphasic stuff in there for kids where it's appropriate. But I actually find the summer super frustrating to program for because it's such a short training block that I find that there's just not enough time to get done, all of the stuff that you would want to get done in the summer. But we don't have technically in-season kids, but we have kids playing summer softball and Legion baseball up here in Minnesota. So there's a few kids that we got to work around in-season stuff. But man, for us, it really, with the movement prep, speed and agility, all of that stuff, we go back to the basics and we start over and refresh everything all summer long so that when we get to school, I don't have to spend a lot of teaching time with in-season programs.
I'll jump in. I like the last couple of you guys and ladies brought up the influx of new kids, and the first thing I was thinking when you earlier today sent us some of the topics, I kind of jotted down a few notes so I try to be prepared. And the first thing I think of when I'm thinking of planning for the summer is, number one, I'm going to have athletes I haven't really worked with. Number two, I'm going to have athletes that I haven't worked with in a long time, because like I don't remember who mentioned it, but we're a multi-sport school. I mean, I don't think I've ever worked anywhere where we had so many 3-sport athletes. I'm at my alma mater. I graduated in 1992. We did not have this many 3-sport athletes in 1992. I mean, probably our football team, 80% of them play 2 sports, and a third of them play 3 sports, and play two seasons of at least one of those sports. So, there's a lot of these athletes that they couldn't fit a class in their second semester schedule. They played 2 or 3 seasons, other than coming when they can for a few morning sessions. I hadn't seen them in a while. So whether I don't know what they're capable of, or whether I don't know what issues they may have developed through their seasons, or I don't know, how much they've regressed from not working with me, that's the first thing I kind of try to plan for, is to make sure that I'm able to structure the workout in such a way and have the supervision I need to make sure that I'm dealing with that issue first and foremost. But secondly, what are the coaches doing? I mean, when you think about planning for football, you got to know, my coaches are going to take them out when I'm done with them. They're going outside, and they're going to be out there a good while, running around, doing drills. We're allowed to go out there in helmets and basically play 7-on-7 and do skill drills all summer. So, and if a football coach is a teacher, he's going to take his kids and go do that. And he's probably going to do a little too much. And so then, I have to try to modify what I want to do. If I'm sitting here talking to you guys about what I want to do this summer, it's not what I'm going to be able to do this summer, because I can't really stop them or control them. So I'm going to have to modify what I'm doing. I mean, I can do like Mark has done an excellent job of, and educate them. And I think I have a staff coming in that I think I can do that with, for sure. But some, with volleyball, they want to come in 2 days a week. They got a lot of travel in the summer, going to camps and tournaments. So, I got to work around that issue as well. So that's kind of my first thing, is new kids and kids I hadn't seen in a long time, and making sure that I'm regressing things, or sort of meeting them where they are right now, instead of where I remember them being a year ago or 6 months ago. But looking at my football schedule, it's a little bit different than the other sports, because of that aspect of the coaches being there in the morning and taking them out right after I'm done with them. So our coach wants to have Tuesday be a just all on the field day. I get to work with them, but he wants a lot of conditioning on that day. And then our Thursday, he wants no field work, just lift them and send them home. So when I'm looking at a 4-day training plan for those parameters that I've been given, I'm looking at probably on Monday. I'm a modified tier guy. I mean, Joe Ken might not claim it if he actually looked at it, but that's kind of where my thinking starts. I typically, when I'm scheduling for a team or a class, try to have after a warm up that might include games or traditional dynamic and a variety of things to wake them up after they've been sitting in class all day, or staying up late in the summer watching movies or doing God knows what. We usually get into a sprint, throw, jump first. No matter what the tier is for that day, we try to start with athletic movements, even if they're just micro dosed. And then we get into usually a power tier, where we might be working on our clean progressions and trying to polish that up and eventually load that up. And then the third tier is usually our big strength lift of the day, which on that first day, I'm probably going to keep that as my total body day, and mostly focused on explosives with anything that's total body or lower body, simply because I know what they got ahead of them the next 3 days. If they're not just conditioning on Tuesday, they're going to be competing in a 7-on-7. And Mark can tell you from looking at GPS data, whether they're practicing 7-on-7 or going against one team or playing in a tournament, it's ridiculous the volume they're getting on those days. So I'm not going to hammer the legs on Monday. A lot of them are not doing the right things on the weekend anyway, and I probably would be disappointed in the results that day anyway if that's what we did. So I will work on speed technique, sprinkling some of the XPE stuff that Mark mentioned. On Tuesday, when they want to do their conditioning, I'm going to steal time at the beginning to work on agility, movement quality, teach techniques, work on some of that stuff that day. Because as Tony always says, agility is a great time to teach agility and make that conditioning, since linear speed, if you're really working speed, needs to be such a high intensity in terms of quality of work and rest periods. Wednesday, I'll do a full body workout, but it'll be upper tier. Predominantly our strength tier will be bench press that day for the football team. And then Thursday, that's the day that, since they're not going to go out and do any field work, they've got Thursday afternoon, Friday, Saturday, Sunday off, unless they have a 7-on-7 tournament. That's where we would really hit their lower body hard, since they have such time to recover. And we'll vary that, what type of squat that might be, based on bigs, skill, and combos. With everybody else, I kind of stick with that template I mentioned earlier: sprint, throw, jump, power, strength, and then the final tiers are muscle endurance, hypertrophy, or injury prevention, or sport specific stuff that I know that they want and need.
Yeah, that's all great stuff, guys. I mean, that sounds like we're all high school strength coaches to me, man. We're all on the same kind of page and thinking the same way. Everybody's made great points. With all my kids, especially non-football kids. Obviously, my football team has a little bit different training program in the summertime. Obviously, that's the team we spend the most with. It's the most data I have on all my kids. So they get a little bit more specific. Vogel mentioned it. I do a lot of trait training now that they pass certain assessments and certain goals I've set for them. So I kind of make those adjustments, and those kids who are more the speed guys that need more speed work now, I call them the varsity guys. The guys need more of the strength and speed aspect. They're more of my advanced developmental, and obviously the ones that need more strength than anything are my developmental groups. So the football, definitely, they're split up. Obviously, they're lifting 3 days: Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. They're going 8 through 10 varsity, and some of our JV studs will lift from 8 to 9, and 9 to 10s are JV and freshman incoming. Their big program this summer is, from the past 2 years, I've been very blessed to have elite form. So my varsity and my JV stud guys, a lot of their big lifts are going to be based off power. Yes, I'll be prescribing velocity-based training, certain traits, and we're just coming off actually 8 weeks of 2 cycles of intensification and realization of peak force, light peak force, and heavy peak force. So we're going to work a lot more speed work in June, and get back to more of the strength and power really focused in July. But I'm just trying to get back to some basics with them technique-wise, but push more them on setting the goal as a power output for every set, with the velocity base as well, like I said. But the goal every time when they're completing their power cleans or their split squats or the bench press, it's always going to be relative to what their power output is for every set, every rep. And then obviously I get an average peak power from that as well. And then that's what their goal is, what they got to beat for the following week. So that's how I kind of set that up for their lifts on Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Tuesday, they're just on the field. So we do our speed work that day. Our main focus lift on Monday is our upper body, just like everybody kind of else said. You come off camps on the weekend, man, I can't tell you how many guys just terrible training days because they're exhausted. They're beat up on Monday from last year. And I was like, man, I can't do that again, man. So, and again, I was at a new school and I didn't know how many of those kids really went to camp and stuff. And my previous school didn't have a lot of guys that went to camp. So this year I had to make some big modifications due to what I learned from last year's data and stuff. So, but then we hit legs, lower body, main focus, big lift. I'm going to get away from doing bilateral squat really this summer. I say that I'm going to do more trap bar deadlift. They're a big lift on Wednesday, but they're still going to do split squat for speed work on their Thursday training. And the reason why I say Thursdays are speed training in the weight room dynamic effort day is because that's where we mostly have our scrimmages on that day. So I look at like it's a game day for us. So on game day, we're always going to do speed training, speed strength phase day. So we're going to keep them just like that. So they know game day, it's speed day. So we're going to keep that same focus. Big adjustment I make with my other teams in the summer is I go back to some more simpler movements, and I go back to just dumbbell split squat, dumbbell bench press, or just push-ups. I get them away from the bench press, get them away from the bar, do things like that, that I feel like it's simpler to teach. You're only in there with them for 45, 50 minutes. You get them in, get them out. Also, for me to have the young athletes come in there they want to observe the upperclassmen. They want to be like them. So for them to be able to do a dumbbell split squat just like the upperclassmen, they fit in better instead of them having to do something drastically different. So for me, it's a more simplified in the summer. Like everybody else kind of said it, 7 weeks, simplify it, make it easy, make it fun, get in, get out, let them be kids. And you can get into more detailed stuff in your training program, breaking down lists in more detail. Which I do in August, which our block 0 is all breaking down our list the entire month especially for off-season athletes.
Our different teams, some of them choose different numbers of days to work. So football comes in 3 days. It sounds like we're all very similar with that. Some of our sports choose 2 days, and depending on whether it's 2 or 3 days, we will depend on whether we're doing whole body every day or we do some sort of Olympic lift all 3 days of the week. We're always power, and we're chasing power and we're chasing sprinting. We sprint 2 of those 3 days with our football team, and one of the days is more agility tag-based games. And that's one thing that I was actually up at Minnesota a couple of years ago with the Movement Miyagi guy, and trying to get those concepts of how do we teach agility and some of the tag games that some of the coaches showed up there were like, my kids love it, and it's really, really fast, and it looks like football, it looks like basketball, and I'm teaching movement patterns outside of the tag, but they're refining it in there, and they're figuring out what works for themselves through those games. So that's probably one of the biggest things that we do that's a little bit different. But we're squatting twice a week in some form, whether it's back squat, front squat. Where one day is usually more dynamic than the other, where it's a lighter and more power output. We're using the VBT. The other day is more that moderate range, 80 to 90% sets of 2 to 3. A lot of you already said it. It sounds like our summers are very similar. Our athletes honestly are more tired in the summer than they are during the school year. And so I've actually had to modify my workouts to accommodate their schedules, because we all talked about those 3 sport athletes. Their coaches are demanding almost too much out of them. So I'm a football coach still. I coach offensive line, but my guys are also playing basketball. And so their basketball coach has them going to stuff. We have them going to camps and doing all these things. And then on top of that, some of them play baseball. And so they're doing all these things. And I've actually had to reduce my volume and reduce my intensity a lot of times to accommodate their schedules, because they're just doing too much and they're going to break down otherwise. So I used to have all these big goals for the summer, and really keeping them healthy and keeping their power outputs high is some of our main goals. And again, we do a little different with our freshman football, where with our freshman football and basketball, we put them by themselves because it's such a big group of people. And then I'm not a tier person, but it's in essence block 0, where we're teaching them all the basics all at the same time. Some of our other sports that are a little smaller, we use TeamBuildr to differentiate. And so I give a real basic workout for my beginners, and we're teaching them the foundational movements. And then my advanced kids that have been with me for 4 years, we're all training the same stuff, just in different ways. So some of my kids will be doing power clean, some might be doing clean pull floor, some might be doing trap bar deadlift, whatever level they're at. But it sounds horrible, but I feel like we actually go back in the summer during the school years where we make our biggest gains. And that's where people that don't train year round, I don't know how they do it, because our summer is, we're trying to maintain that power, but you can only do so much with these kids. And I have my own kids going through it, and I see what's being asked of them. And it's too much. And so we've got that going on. And one other thing that we do, we've got groups 5 days a week coming in, and I will pull kids from one group because they have conflict with driver's ed. I'll be like, you go with the basketball group. They can go back to their TeamBuildr. They can follow their workout, and I can handle that like that. And so finding ways to be creative to get them in, but also strength coaches are insane with their hours that they want to work sometimes. And that's one reason I got out of the college level, and I wasn't getting paid or jobs that I really wanted. But making sure that I have limitations of how much I'm willing to work in the summer. And so my limitation is I'm willing to work from 7 to noon, and I'll squeeze all these kids in between 7 and noon. But I'm not going to be there till 8 o'clock at night. Just I have too many friends that are strength coaches that are divorced because of their schedules, and I don't want to be one of those statistics.
That's good stuff. And, a few things pop out to me from all the things that you guys talked about. One of the things that I relate with big time is the simplified approach, even during the summer. That's me all the time. And sometimes I'll listen to a coach and be like, oh my gosh, I am not where I need to be as far as like implementation. And then on the other hand, there are kids being pulled in so many different directions. If we can sprint, if we can jump, if we can throw, if we can hit a power phase or a power tier like coach was talking about, and then go into our strength phase, and then, get some correctives or get some hypertrophy or whatever, have these things that we're chasing. I think if you start to see the kids that are the most consistent, year-round training, they get the most bang for their buck. That's what I love. And I love to see kids that, we're getting to the end of the school year right now. And these kids that have given 4 years of their life to just being the best that they can be, right? And just giving all that. And I love that. I think that's so cool. So for all you to have such awesome programs that they can hop in during the summer and just continue on with their training, that's big time. And to be able to do that and balance your life, what's that look like during the summer to be able to get in and then get out? I tell a lot of the people that they ask about summer, I say, you know what? I train more kids in less time, more efficient, more coaches are in there. And I love it. I absolutely love it. So yes, we do a few things that are different than our normal classes and stuff like that. But man, it's a good time. It's fun. What were some of the things that stood out to you all? Maybe about what another coach was saying, something that you might steal or implement or think a little bit more about? Because one of the things that I was thinking was like, oh yeah, just agility games in general. Like maybe putting a game in there for the warm up. That was like, oh yeah, that's a great way just to stimulate people. And I haven't been doing that well enough. We'll do some Kickstarter stuff, but we won't just game. And so that's one of the things I'm thinking. What about you all?
I think going back to what Doug said, I was thinking it's really what we do in the summer is fill buckets, So, that's one of the things we need to look like. Well, we got a lot of people on here that use data to track a lot of, different things. And I think that's a big advantage of having that technology is, we don't have to guess at which buckets the athletes need filled. We know that certain athletes need strength, certain athletes need power. And, that's everyone was talking about it, but I was thinking that, right, that's kind of the whole basis of all of our summer programs is figuring out what each individual group needs, because it's impossible to get completely individualized. You'd be, but you try to figure out what each group needs as close as you can and fill that bucket. But what were you just saying about agility games? We got into that a couple of years ago after I started really following Nick DeMarco at Elon. If you want to, he's Elon Sports Performance on YouTube. I mean, he's got a great setup with that. But yeah, that was my thought. As I was just thinking, when we're talking about, we're just filling buckets, aren't we? Just trying to fill buckets.
I want to hear Lane, you dive in a little bit more about some of the stuff that you're doing, because like you said, you're in year 1, year 2. So a lot of the coaches on here, we've been established at a school for quite a while. And so I'm really interested in hearing a little bit more about, how you implemented in the summer early on.
That's a great question, Vogel, man. To be honest, last summer was just kind of not wing it, what I'm saying? It was just like you just didn't know how things were going to go. My first year, I didn't know from future talking to past coaches. I just didn't know the first thing, if I didn't really have good kids show up. It was post-COVID, first school year back, and it was just tough trying to building a relationship with new coaches and et cetera, and I felt like I did a strong job, but we still had a lot of kids that just weren't bought in yet to what we're doing. And the summer was slow. I'm not gonna lie. It was, football was solid, volleyball was solid. The big sports were solid, really. But I still didn't have a lot of that. And Preston made the point was having more coaches in there in the weight room as well. Like that was the first time I saw a majority of all my coaches in the summertime. They actually started showing up, and they actually saw how hands-on I was with the coach, how the kids, and how detailed it was on, going to educating the kids on certain movement patterns and breaking down lifts and just bringing energy and stuff like that, enthusiasm. And it's the first time the coaches actually were like, oh crap, man, he knows what's going on. Like now I know why kids want to be down here. So again, that was really cool to try to get the buy-in lead into my second year, man. So it's been interesting, I ain't gonna lie, but what I've done a little bit different. And again, all my tests and trials have been with football because that's been the most consistent team. And what I tell my coaches is, hey, this is all the data I have on the football team. This is all the data I have on your team. Like, why don't I have that much data? Well, let's talk about, you have 5 girls that show up for volleyball sometimes and no coaches show up. Football has 20 coaches and 90 dudes. I mean, there's a reason why I'm putting more work into them, because they're more committed. And something I kind of tell the kids is, you got to be committed to yourself and to your team before we should be able to commit to you. You want to be committed to yourself. So a big thing that I've implemented again with my program is we started incorporating obviously velocity-based training with elite form and stuff. And the biggest tool I've taken away is breaking down the size of my kids, male, female sizes, male and female height-wise, and their power numbers and stuff. And I've been showing that. So every kid gets to see their power number from their previous weeks of training, either it's hang power cleans or power cleans, or if it's, back squat or front squat or bench press, right? I promote all that every week so the kids see that data. So they're immediately competing that next week of what their power output. Okay, I did this weight and these are the reps. So an easy example was our first, this past cycle, we were doing 3 rep max. The first week of the realization cycle, 3 rep max. Then the next 10 days, we started our 2 rep max, and now we're going with single 1 rep maxes this week coming up. And I've just promoted everything. Say, hey, you did this weight, you did it for 4 each single rep, you did this for your power output for this, and this was the average power, peak power, average, and average power. Well, you got to beat this on this cycle starting here this week. And that's been an immediate game changer for my kids to come in, they go down the list, see their name, okay, that's what I got to hit. Well, they know the tab's got to be on peak power, whatever it is, or average power. And then they got to shoot for that goal. And they're trying to beat that every time. And it's not just the kid who's lifting the weight. It's the teammate that's more enthusiastic than anything. When they're like, look, they're really getting after, pushing them, encouraging them. The energy's there because it's the immediate motivation of a number that they're competing with their partner and with the rest of the DBs, or the rest of the team in general. So for a game changer for my program that I was very interested in push band my previous school, and the school just wasn't willing to promote any growth. You know what I'm saying? I was like, this could be a game changer. And obviously saw Mark and you doing what you guys were doing, of course, and obviously Doug as well. But as soon as I got this tool, I felt immediately like the buy-in, the competition level, and that's why my big hashtag is we compete. We are competing every day and everything because the data is there. And that's another thing I've kind of learned from you guys. We're constantly testing, guys and athletes and girls, because it's like they want to test and compete. Well, let's put them in that situation. We want them to compete on Friday night or whatever it is. Well, the biggest thing is you got to be able to put them and give them those numbers every week, every day. They need that stuff. I learned that a lot. I saw that from you guys, man. I've learned that from you guys. So I appreciate that. You guys promoting that so much.
I had an opportunity to play around with that a little bit a few years ago with push bands. But what I've really seen that you just described, not without having newer, better BBT devices that I can use on a broader scale, is just having a timing system inside the weight room, having enough length inside my room, and having the plyo mats from Rich Burnett. And I mean, we try to find a way at least 2 days a week with the timing, whether we're timing our 505 right now, trying to implement some of the XP sports stuff, or whether it's just a 5 fly into a 10, and I'm able to fit a 10 fly into a 10 inside my weight room. So I can do that year round. And gosh, the kids love it, and they give great effort, and they celebrate each other, and they talk crap to each other. And I have right in the middle of my weight room, you can think, you're only going to max out periodically with your lifts. But we have an arch. We have 6 double half racks down the middle of our room, and then there's a big arch in the middle of them that's kind of decorative. Well, I had a a little arch, a small frame built by a welder to elevate a bell above that decorative arch. And then the rope hangs down. And let me tell you, if a kid hits a number on his jump or his sprint, he goes nuts, rings the bell, the whole room stops. I mean, I didn't invent that by any stretch of the imagination. And we did some similar things previously, but I don't know. It's just different when they have an opportunity a couple times a week to hit a PR on something that isn't devastating their central nervous system or making them really, really sore. Like, you know, if we go in there and we have kids constantly trying to ring the bell on squats or hex bar deadlift, you know, I'm gonna have to say, oh, we're not doing that this week. Why are you putting that? You know, we're not maxing out right now. But I can just let them go on the sprint and the jump. And man, you know, that's part of the culture piece that you were talking, we might talk about in a minute, is that has made things a lot of fun for the kids and for me. So I don't have the VBT devices yet. I'm actually working on making sure that I have permission to use the software with our kids before I order anything just yet. But I'm just, you know, I'm in a big bureaucracy with the largest school district in the state. So I can't just do whatever I want. I have to kind of jump through some hoops first, but I'm working on it. Hopefully it will be VBT and again by the end of summer. So
Somebody asked me a tough question today. VBT or GPS? That was a really hard question for me, just because GPS has changed our culture more than VBT. I mean, trust me, I'm all about it, but GPS has changed our football coaching staff from believing that we should be out there running and doing a bunch of conditioning. We do no conditioning except with some of our offensive and defensive linemen, because I've been able to show them that our spring practices that we're going through in May, our skill guys are getting 11,000, 10,000 yards, 9,000 yards. And half of that is in that 50 to 70% range. So that's something too. And I agree, Adam just said if the coaches are into it, but you're right. And our coaches were able to understand, you know, but someone asked me that today and about they had money for one thing. And I was kind of like, I want to say VBT because, I mean, the weight room, you know, but nothing has changed our culture to a culture of speed. Not even the laser timers has changed our culture of speed like the GPS did, because I was able to show our coaches, look, I mean, you got 3,000 yards at 50 to 70% in practice, and then we're going to run another 300-yard shuttle at that same speed after practice. What's the point? You're just, you know, so again, filling a bucket. And so that's I don't know how you guys feel about that, but for me, that was a tough question.
Jess, maybe you could add to this a little bit, because like I'm big on tech, but at the same time, that like you have to build that in, and it takes time. And I don't think it's a necessity, but it's definitely going to help. You know, if you know how to use it and implement it right. Like I was talking to John Bierbauer, because he knows tractors and comes from farming and stuff too. And like you look at like what a tractor looks like now with all the monitors in it and everything else, it's completely different than what it was in 1985. So yes, it's a necessity. Yes, it's something that you want to use and you can get better with it. But people were still farming back in 1985 too. You know, so like maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit.
I struggle with the tech piece because my full-time job is a science teacher. My strength and conditioning job is a coaching stipend. And the more technology you have, the more time you have to process data, and the more like opportunity there is for stuff to not work every day. And I'm a big fan of just like dependable things that I know are going to work all the time, and that I have the time to master the tech so that I can make the most of it for my kids, right? So we haven't gone down the road of VBT, which looking back on it, I made a mistake. When we designed our new weight room, I didn't ask for it. I thought I was pushing the envelope with what I was asking for. And I was like, I don't want to push too hard. I don't want to ask for too much. They're going to say no. And when I went with my proposal, they were like, oh, that's all you wanted? sweet, go for it. And I was like, oh man, I totally missed an opportunity to get some cool stuff. But for me, if my full-time job was strength and conditioning, I'd be all over it, because as a science person, I will geek out on data all day. And I love showing it to the kids because I think it really quantifies stuff for them that otherwise it's just, well, coach is saying that again. Like, no, buddy, here's the number, right? But I recently was talking to another one of our Minnesota coaches, and he said, and I don't have it right in front of me, but I can get it. There's a new VBT system out that the software is free and there's no yearly cost to have a membership for that. And that for me makes a really big difference, because we are already paying for TeamBuildr, and I actually don't really have much of a budget. And so it's like, do I want TeamBuildr, or do I want VBT, or do I want this, or do I want that? And the VBT stuff, where the cost for us has been prohibitive in the past, if there's now an opportunity where there's something that works well that doesn't have an additional cost, that for me opens the door to say, like, okay, let's explore this and see how much it would cost. But my question for you guys who already have it is, when you first started, how did you outfit your space? Did you get units for every rack right away? Do you have a limited number? What do you feel like is the right number to get the data that is helpful?
I started with two push bands in 2014. And then I think I made it to like 4 or 5 push bands. And then I tried form collars, and those were terrible. And then I ran with push until VMAX Pro came along, and I started the same way. And I went 2 up to 8. And I have some other devices too that I use for different things, but that's what I would suggest. You can just go 1 or 2 if you can, and then learn the process. Because it's a lot easier to learn the process. I was telling someone about GPS today, same thing. Get like 6 of them, and then learn your process, and then add on. That was my opinion. But those other guys, they have a lot of experience too.
I was talking to Vogel not that long ago, and he talked about, he's going to be heading into a new situation and what it looks like, what he's got going on right now comparatively to when he starts at a new position, and how he'll transition things into it. I thought that was just really interesting, because that's the way that we all kind of did it, is step by step. But once you get to a point where you're like, man, I'm a master of all these things, but your school isn't, your kids aren't, those are the people that have to implement all this stuff. So I just thought that was interesting. Maybe Vogel, you can hop in on that and kind of talk about that. But I thought, man, if I would ever switch to a different situation, it would be like a start over type process, and kind of phasing it in, kind of like Hoover's talking about.
Yeah, like we talked about a little bit about layering, and where my knowledge is, and where the coaches and the athletes' knowledge is not, they're not matching right now when I start. So I got to get them up to speed. The kids learn the fastest. Doug and I talk about this all the time. The kids like pick up on that stuff right away. So and they love it. When you're talking about starting some of those things, like one of the things I kind of looked into is like, okay, well, especially with VBT, like you're talking about, Jessica, it depends on how you want to use it, how you want to use your training. Do you want to do cutoffs? Do you want to are you looking at trying to stay in a certain quality? Are you using it just as just feedback for intent? I mean, that's usually the first place that you start with it. So I'm just kind of figuring out where you want to go with that. Like, I know Robbie, you're talking about like plyomat and stuff. Plyomat's really easy to implement, and it's really easy for kids to understand because they've seen jump mats, they know what a vertical is, and then you can introduce them to RSI and some other different metrics that kind of get to some of those different things. And then, but yeah, just figure out what tech you got to figure out what you want, what's gonna be the biggest bang for your buck. I was different than Hoover with it. I wanted to make sure that whatever unit that I used, I wanted to make sure that we had it for all of our athletes, and not just saying, oh, this is a football thing, or this is only for the strong athletes. So what we ended up doing is we actually started out with me buying like a bunch of different units and brands. And so then I knew that I could afford if we went to implementing it at all 18 of our racks. And so we tried those out, and I wanted to vet them, and I wanted to test them myself and compare them to different ones, so that we could figure out, okay, what's the best for our situation? Because just because one's great for like Adam Lane uses something different than Doug does. Whatever you decide to use, making sure that fits what you're doing within your program and the culture that you're building. Because if it slows down your weight room and you want things to be fast paced, then that might not be the best choice for you. Or if you want something with more data, that might be better for you. If you have a lot of like one thing that I wanted to make sure is I could control the widgets that they would see. I thought that was important to me because I don't want them to focus on things that may not be important within our program.
Let me say
one thing. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jessica, I can totally sympathize with your concerns because I was a social studies teacher like Mark Hoover was for a lot of my career. And, there was rushing down to the weight room, getting my clothes changed, trying to get things started on time. And I couldn't imagine trying to set everything up. I mean, and it was just impossible. I wouldn't even begin to try to deal with the iPads and the devices and all that if that was still what I was doing, for sure. I will say, plyomats and even some of the timing systems, not all of them, very, very quick and easy to set up and use and implement. But yeah, with the VBT or really, heck, honestly, setting up just TeamBuildr, which I use and used before I was down there. That was enough. Just even getting those iPads out and getting that set up. So I didn't have the kids log in. I used a generic login, and yeah, it was enough burden just to do that. If I'd have been also setting up for another device, I don't think I could have gotten the workout started in a timely manner.
The one thing about the VBT, and I've had it for a while now, and I think we're getting pretty good results with it. But for those that haven't done it before, you can start trying the concepts of VBT without the devices. It's not the same because you're not getting the feedback, but you can link percentages. It's pretty well documented what percentages go with what velocity. And so if you've got 30% on the bar on squat, you're probably hitting somewhere 1 to 1.2 meters per second. And so you can play around with it like that. But once you finally do get the device, I started off with a couple of them. Now I have 10 GymAware type units. And initially it's overwhelming because there's so much that it can do. And I don't try to do everything all at once. Focus on, for me, initially it was just intent and we were going after targets, and then it went into, we started tracking. And the big part about the tracking was just so we could show growth to develop buy-in in our program. And so my system's similar to Adam's, but just a different way with the GymAware leaderboard, where my kids see in real time on the leaderboard what their last power output was and did they PR. And then we also have a leaderboard where they compete against each other. But honestly, it's competing with themselves that's more important. But finding something that you can give accurate data, I think, is important, whether it's vertical jump, whether it's sprinting, whether it's power output on power clean or squat or whatever you want to do, just so your athletes can know and see that there's growth. And it can be something as simple as vertical jump. If you don't have technology, you have a Vertec or you have a jump mat or laser grid or whatever you think you want, something that you can trust and that's consistent, to be able to show that growth. And I know for me that when my athletes see growth, it develops buy-in from them and their friends that might be reluctant to come into the weight room and the track.
Yeah, all good points. I mean, everybody's saying the right stuff, as in just it's tech has its place. And I love VBT, but again, at the same time, I think like Doug said it, and Adam Vogel said, is like it's about really the big picture is like mastery of movement. And I said in the message earlier too as well, is like none of my freshmen touch elite form to their second semester, and they don't even really touch it. They just do it because I do have the luxury of putting my entire program in it. So it's like TeamBuildr somewhat, what I'm saying? It tracks everything. So, but it's not really, again, my big thing is mastery of movement and speed, and not really so much the intent of speed yet. Is we do have a tab on it to where we can do tempo training, and that's my big thing for my freshmen is this learning what really 1 second is, or what, what I'm saying, the countdown form, instead of the countdown in your head's a little faster than the machine, so just things like that where I think that you can, if it has that tool, and luckily I have that tool to where for my kids, they learn how to use it at a young age, but it's not like I'm tracking their velocity. Some of them I don't even look at their data because it's pointless. Some of them is because again, they're still learning mastery of movement. And that's the number one thing. I have one freshman boy right now, works his butt off, but he looks like a fifth grader. And looks like he looks like he enjoys the candy store too a little bit, a little chunky. And I'll be honest, I looked like that when I was in fifth grade. So, and I love him to death, but he's constantly, he wants to add more weight. And we've always known that kid, he wants to add more weight because all his buddies are doing it. And I stay on him all the time, master and moving, master, and don't worry about the weight. The weight will come when he starts biologically maturing more. So, but again, tech's good, but it has its place. But again, we all know the most important thing, master movement and training the kids and trying to get the best results. And that's the best thing in the buy-in and building that culture with our kids,
Yeah, maybe that's a great transition right there of what does it look like to become masters of movement, build culture, all these things that are, maybe even before tech, right? So diving into specific to summer training, what are some of the things that you do to build culture, to make sure that you get the buy-in from all sports, from all kids, all these multi-sport athletes that we've talked about on this episode so far? And then with that, how does that transition? We build buy-in through the summer. How's that just transition right into the rest of our stuff? So whoever wants to take that one away, go for it.
Anytime I'm starting with a new group or restarting a new phase like summer, I make sure that I kind of build everything around some core actions, including the sort of nuts and bolts of what we're doing. It all ties back to those things. So, we've all had a lot of the same influences. I mean, a lot of us have done Play Academy or followed Gary or been on with Jeremy Boone, or we listen to a lot of the same people. And so a lot of us have been through those same sort of thought processes. But I kind of came down after developing mission statements and all that stuff with some core actions, things I wanted to put in front of the kids constantly that were short and simple and that they could buy into, that tied back to all these other things that fall under the culture and the items that you asked about. One thing that we tell our kids every day they come in the weight room is we expect them to get better. So I mean, that's something that's on the TV, on the wall. I talk about it better every day. So there's different ways to get better. And for some kids that day, getting better might be a lot of recovery, but we want them to be very intently focused on why we're there and not just checking boxes and going through the motions. And so one way to support that with culture is measuring, like we talked about, as much as we can so that they can see their progress, posting that progress, whether it's things like, I did the Brendan Thompson leaderboard. I haven't really implemented it in class yet. I was doing it myself over the weekends, every weekend, and posting on Monday in the foyer TV. And they would always stop at the cubbies and stare at it for a while before they came in to warm up each class period. But I'm trying this summer to have that sprint and jump data kind of updated live so they can see people getting leapfrogged on the days that we do those. I mentioned earlier the ringing the bell when they have a PR on their vertical or their fly times, and when we max out, when they do that too, of course. But also profiles. I don't know if anybody's done this rabbit hole. I said last year in Play Academy when this came up, I'm like, I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to hire somebody to do it for me. I ended up sitting at Christmas and taking Vogel, taking one of his courses and building out one. Then I did another one and built out another one. And so now I'm putting together these profiles where I can show a kid's progress over time, whether it's a 4-year progress which was really cool to look at when you have data points on a kid for 4 years. And some of this stuff is in TeamBuildr and stuff like that. And I love TeamBuildr, but the reporting is not very good. But these things really get the kids excited when they can see those, the progress over time. And you can tie that back. One of the ones I've made, I'm tying it back to things like attendance. Looking at your attendance rate. We have a culture score that we do, which I actually didn't even put in my notes to talk about, but I could talk about that after, some of the other people go around if we still have some time. But the second thing after better every day is be a blessing. And then the third thing is if we do those two things, leave a mark. But I try to emphasize to my kids, talking about culture, that all of them have to be coaches. I'm coaching them up good enough to be proficient lifters, but I'm usually in there alone. I have to have a room full of coaches. And so spotters aren't spotters, they're coaches. And so I expect them to constantly be looking for a way to be a blessing to other people in the room. If we do a lot of tri-sets, so if you come back around and you're waiting, go back in to be the spotter or the lifter, find a way to be a blessing while you're waiting. I mean, I try to emphasize that constantly. And when I see somebody doing that really well, I like to try to get excited about it and point it out maybe at the end of the workout when we debrief. And what I'm trying to implement this summer is not only starting up the wristbands for miles per hour clubs, but either a wristband or a t-shirt for exhibiting those qualities. That when I see somebody that's doing those things well, they get something, whether it be a wristband or a t-shirt for that. In the past, I really didn't like the poundage clubs and all that stuff. I've always look, our big problem in high school is showing up, right? Especially if you're not in a class and you're doing it after school, before school. I've always told my football coaches, hey, if you want to help us, let's get t-shirts that are really cool, that are for showing up. When a kid is there consistently for 8 weeks, give them a shirt nobody else is going to get, just for that. I mean, if he does that, if he consistently shows up, he's going to get strong. I'm not worried about that. I'm really not worried. That's easy. So those are just some things I jotted down, but I don't want to hog all the time.
No, I was okay. I was okay with you hogging all that time. That was a lot of great stuff.
I think the attendance piece is so important too. And Amanda and I have talked about this so often, just around the biggest battle is getting them there. I totally agree. And I had a conversation with my kids this morning because we're almost to the end of our year. We've got, like 12 lifting sessions left before the end of school. And I posted the total sessions attended since the start of summer for last year. And I've got one of my gymnasts who's my top attendance kid, and she's counting out the days. And she realized today that even if she attends every day for the rest of the year, she's going to miss 200 sessions by 5. And she was peeved that she's not going to hit 200. I'm like, but so you were here, you're going to have been here 195 times. That's amazing. And I think recognizing that showing up piece is so huge for especially maybe the non-football kids, right? The kids that you're battling to get in there, the gymnastics kids, or we've got synchronized swimmers, or tennis, golf, those kids really recognizing hey, it matters that you are here. It really, really matters for you and your team. I do, one of the culture things we do is the first time that they get perfect attendance for a week, they get a big sticker to put on their water bottle. And then every week that they get perfect attendance after that, they get a little sticker. So by the end of the year, they've got this water bottle filled with these really cool little stickers, sort of, the football helmet idea. But it's cheap, it's easy, the kids look forward to it. And it's a, badge of honor. They can carry around this water bottle that's got all these stickers, and that people can tell that they're showing up. The other thing that we do that has been a major bummer the last couple of years is in our old weight room, we were allowed to write on the wall. They didn't care. We could just write on the wall. And so when I would give the kids a Beast Award, they would just sign the wall in a paint pen, put their name, put the year, and then, oh my gosh, I'm sorry, my dog's barking. But in our new weight room, they told us that we couldn't do that because they didn't want us to ruin the walls. And so I've been thinking for 2 years about how to solve this problem. And I recently discovered that contact paper sticks to our weight room walls. And so I'm going to now let the kids sign their Beast thing on contact paper and put it up in one of the bricks on the wall, so it'll be there. And the kids love that piece. But the other culture piece that we do in the summer that we start to train in, just like talking about going back to the basics that we were talking about with the programming, is we start training that peer coaching piece by having kids lead the warm-up. So we teach all the kids how to lead the warm-up. We teach them why we do each thing, how to coach it through, what reminders to give people as they're coaching through the warm-up. And that's something that then trickles through the entire year, where I can walk in, and as I'm setting up all the stuff, right, I'm rushing down to my class, I'm setting stuff up, and I'm like, hey, Preston, lead the warm-up, bud. It's on you today. And they rock it every day. I mean, it's great. I can pick my most experienced football kid, I can pick my least experienced middle school kid, and they all know how to lead a perfect warm up, and they all got a little bit of ownership with that, and it gives me, 5 to 7 minutes to like get it together before the actual workout starts. So I think that recognition piece is so big, and just making sure that the kids all see who all is there every day, right? So having kids lead warm up, giving them stickers, giving them shirts, all that cool stuff. It's just a way to call out those kids that are managing to show up when their teammates are at home snoozing.
Yeah, I think it's funny. We have 8 weeks in the summer, and most of us are between 5 and 8, and it's the shortest period of time for training. And we spend so much time programming it. We spend so much time doing things to get more buy-in, get kids showing up, get kids taking ownership of things. And but I do love summertime training. It's just like, because kids truly want to be there, right? And they have a lot of demands between the other sports, travel sports, between driver's ed, summer school, jobs, and just so many things going on. So we are competing for their time. And so, like, going on the attendance piece, what you guys are talking about, I did something with them last year that I'm going to continue to do. We called it Mission 90. And so anybody that made 90% for the summer, we made custom tote bags for them, like the cinch tack bags with our logo on them. And that went over really well. They really liked that. And then we tried to do things, which I know a lot of schools do this, like to make each have random days that are really fun for them, like whether it be themed workouts where like they all wear like whiteout shirts, or they like all dress for 4th of July, things like that, make it fun. We do popsicles after a hot day. We have racks under the bleachers, so we'll lift outside. We'll do a couple special workouts, like we call the gauntlet, where like we'll bring weights all out onto the turf, and the sleds out there, things like that. Do a workout out there. So we'll have some special workouts for them in the summer. And like I said, popsicles and watermelon after those. We'll put a water slide at the end of it so that they can hit the water slide, just like the slip and slide water slide, like just fun little things like that. And they just, when they recollect that, they're like, "Oh, coach, are we gonna do this stuff in the summer?" I don't know. We'll have to see. What days are we doing it? I don't tell them, because I don't want them to just plan for those days. And then we'll also do other things to make it fun for them, to make it more team-like, because some of the teams do train with teams. And if they train their whole team, like cheer and like football, things like that, we'll do a draft with them. And so then they'll be on squads or sub teams within their team. And then we'll keep track of points that way, and we'll have prizes for them throughout the year for that. Or we'll actually just make teams within the different groups that they're coming in, and attendance plays a part into them getting points for that as well. So we'll do a lot of those things to try and make it fun for the summer, build that culture in that way. And we'll also have a lot of kids that, like, I tell them, look, I want you showing up, whether like let's say, for example, they're like, "Coach, I'm really sore." Hey, just show up. We'll modify things for you. We might cut you out of the movement work. We'll do things like that for you, and they'll appreciate it. And then they keep showing up. So then, because then they know, like, hey, coach has my back. It's not a problem. And then something else that's been cool is a lot of the kids will want to stick around and like help with the next training session, which has been really cool as well. And then we were just I was talking to our volleyball team, and a couple of the younger underclassmen were talking about how it's been a struggle this year for their attendance as a team, right? So they have some girls that were completely, like, haven't missed hardly much at all, like 80 to 90% attendance. Then we have some that are like 50, 60, maybe 40%. And so they're like, what can we do differently? And so one of the ideas we kind of talked about and came up with was, after the training sessions of summer, that's when they'll have like pool parties or like go to DQ or things like that. So they're building that team camaraderie within each other, with not only lifting and working out together, but also having some sort of activity they can do afterwards because they're all together already.
It's funny. The first thing I wrote down when you said about the culture in the summer is I'm kind of the anti-fun coach, where I'm like chasing power and speed and stuff like that. But trying to work in things that are fun, I think, is really, really important. And we're spoiled in the summer and tortured in the winter, but we live across the street from the bay, which is Lake Michigan is right there. And so there's beach, and we'll go over there and set goals up and play handball or like do crazy games in the sand. And that's something that a lot of them like. But we've done things where I just know they're dead, especially with the 7-on-7s in the basketball. And sometimes it's the same kids, where we'll just take a day and do progressive relaxation, and the kids beg for that. Like, and I'm like, we can't really relax every day, but we sprinkle stuff like that in there. One of the biggest things that we use TeamBuildr, and with the leaderboards, one of my groups I just call Trojan Strength. And that's, I don't care whether you play a sport or not, that's every athlete. And so I have athletes that aren't athletes. They just like to train. And so they'll even be around the summer. And our leaderboard for Trojan Strength is everybody. So every sport can see each other. And so they're competing between each other, and then they can use TeamBuildr, and they actually pay attention who has the highest vertical, who has the highest RSI, and flying 10s are like a badge of honor. And we don't do tons of 40s because the risk reward, I sitting around doing 40s all the time, but things like that, getting them to compete with themselves, compete with the group that they're a part of, and then the whole department of all our athletes is something that really drives us. And then that way we're rolling right into the fall, where my class, we don't train as teams in the fall or the school year, where they're in classes with me, and it's a mix of special ed students, regular ed students, boys, girls, you name the sport, they're all in there. I even have I don't even know what, it's some kind of horse riding thing, dressage. I don't even know what that is exactly, but I got that too. And so, but getting them to the point where they're real, we want this to be the culture of our school. And my AD is really, really good right now. And he's driving that. Like, it's the first time I've ever felt like I'm not the one driving it, but my AD is driving it, to make the culture this is just what we do. And then again, make it sure it's fun when they're doing it.
Yeah, all great ideas, guys. I've stolen probably a couple from you guys as well. I know Vogel, I kind of stole his attendance thing that he's doing for this year with my kids for the summer. I'm going to do kind of that 90% attendance as well. And we do I have a Hawkamania design. It's kind of a hashtag I have for my program. So all our kids are going to get like a Hawkamania t-shirt at the end of the year, but obviously spelled Hawk, HAWK, Mania, obviously. But that's a cool thing I've kind of added into the kids as well. Another idea I've taken is like the competition thing is we're all about we compete. So as the kids come in, like an example would be the football guys or whatever in the morning, the big skill guys will come in and they're going to do cornhole, and they get 3 throws in the bag, and we add up the points and stuff. And then if the big skills win the total points, then they get to choose the music that day, things like that, So, but one thing that, and again, I keep dropping Vogel. Vogel and I talk a lot, and he's giving me lots of ideas and stuff. Is another idea I got from Jim Schwingendorf, who is the head strength coach at New Prairie High School in Northern Indiana. He's like the Google genius. And I got this idea from him. Was he created this student athlete report card, and it's just like kind of what Robbie was talking about, that seeing that lasting data for all 4 years. And so I've connected with Vogel, and Vogel kind of connected me with his Google guy. So I'm kind of working on that now. And I want to be able to have a report card that's sent out monthly at the end of the month with a code to all my parents. So then my parents see that immediate result from their kids' progress in class, that progression of climbing the mountain or maybe a little decrease or whatever it is. So I get the buy-in, not just from the kids, but from the parents. So the parents, now we go back to that attendance side. Now they're holding the kid more accountable to showing up to training sessions, and they want to be there more often. And not that I have a problem with that, but I feel like I'm actually in a community now that is truly bought in to wanting the very best for their son and daughter. And not that I didn't have some of that in my previous, but this township I'm in now is just bought in. If I'm willing to give my very best to my kids, they're 100% supporting me in whatever I want to do. So I want to be able to give more and more back to the parents. So the parents have my back on everything and are able to get that kid there for all the training sessions, so they truly can reap the benefits of the true long-term athletic development that we're trying to get from starting the end of their 6th grade year all the way through high school, from where I see them, So for me, that's a big culture thing, is to get the parents involved for them. So, but I haven't started doing bands and stuff like that, like wristbands like Vogel does, whatever. But I do like the t-shirt idea. We have power standards where we have Hawk level, Black Hawk, Navy Hawk, Gold Hawk. So we give t-shirts once they've achieved past our 12 assessment tests we have, and they have to score so many points to get that level. Again, another way that data kind of drives the culture of our kids to be there and compete. come back what Robbie said, kind of be a blessing, not be just a partner, but be a coach for them kids as well. So that's a big thing. I think it's about building the culture from the community and bringing it back into the school. I think that's the big picture. And that's where I feel like I'm gaining the most ground on, is because I'm willing to build that culture from the outside coming in.
Some of the things that y'all have talked about might flow right into this next question, but it's the namesake of the show. It's one of the things that drives me forward, because I just want to know how coaches are making it big time where they're at. How are you making a big time experience for your athletes? And then this is the last little bit for our listeners that have stuck with us. We're also going to this will be the last opportunity for our coaches to any final thoughts or anything you want the listeners to know. This will be our last time around the horn. Here we go.
Guess I'll jump in again. I agree with what you just said, Preston. I mean, everything we talked about kind of points towards that question. What I heard sitting here discussing this with you all is people that are being very thoughtful and intentional and professional and ambitious and thinking about the kids, caring. This isn't just we're the weights coach or an afterthought to our day. It's something we lay down at night to try to go to sleep, and it's running through our head. And I guess one thing that I've always come back to, no matter what I've been doing in my profession, is I want to present to every kid I coach, whether it was a sports coach, having been a track and football coach over the years, or whether it's a strength coach, a performance coach, or whatever you want to call us, is I want them to have a first class experience. I don't want them to feel like they're having a second rate experience. And that comes from what I'm doing and the way that I'm approaching it. It comes to things like working hard to make sure the facility is as good as it can be, whatever that is in your situation. And being intentional about building culture and planning a program and just being first class in every way. I told you earlier today, I saw the list. I didn't want to be unprepared, and I've got like 15 things written down here, but that's what it really all comes down to is all of these things that I wrote down, all the things we've talked about is being first class, being professional, and trying to do a great job for the kids. I mentioned earlier with the culture piece, I was kind of getting to the idea of ownership with them being a blessing and them seeing their progress. But the same concept down bottom with this piece on the big time. I want to make sure they feel like when they come in, what they see and what they experience feels big and it feels personal. Several of you mentioned getting them to just come in and we'll alter the workout. I try to make sure that they know this is the plan, this is why we're doing what we're doing. But I want feedback and communication, and we're going to tailor this thing to you. We're not sport specific. We're you specific. I tell them in class when they have me for class, I'll ask them periodically if we're having a dip in culture, but what is the curriculum of this class? And the right answer is you. You're the curriculum of this class. This is the only class you take. It is about you and you being the best you can be, you achieving your goals. What is my job? My job is only to help you with that. That's all. So I just want them to feel like they're big time, and that the experience, the things they're experiencing are big time. And I think everything everybody said kind of points to that and achieves that in incremental ways.
I want to tag team off of that because I think it's very similar, just with a different word. I just really want them to feel like they're valued, right? Like their contribution in however they're contributing, whether they're, a 4-year varsity starter or a 7th grade kid that mom is making them come because they need a babysitter for an hour, right? Like I want those kids to feel like they have value when they walk into the weight room and when they walk out. I want them to feel like they have value as a person first, right? Like I value you as a human first, and all the rest of it comes after, right? I value you as an athlete. I value you as, a student, an athlete, a peer to your teammates, but really for them to be able to come in and have that part of them filled where as coaches, we recognize they have value. We're passing it along to other people, right? I want to make sure that I'm talking to their sport coaches and letting their sport coaches know, hey, this kid's killing it this week, or I noticed this. What do you see going on at your sport practice? But just knowing that we're on their team. So it's like the exact same thing, just slightly different verbiage. But to me, if they can walk out and know that every day they go in there, they're being recognized for their contributions, then I feel like I've done my job.
One thing that me being a football coach, and this is something I've been around college strength coaches, 3 different coaches, and each one of them had their strengths. But the one coach that really stood out to me was, it can't be about football only. And I think that at the high school level, it's so dangerous when you get to the point where they think it's about football and not just about, I think Adam said it's about being training athletes and individual athletes, and making sure all of our teams understand that they're on equal footing as football. And I get it. Football is the most kids, we see them, but we got to make sure that those other sports feel valued at our school. My biggest thing is, every time I do this, well, first of all, I'm somewhat selfish because I have 2 or 3 kids coming through one's going to be in high school next year and the others are younger, but I want to make sure I'm creating something that's going to be there for them. But I want to also make sure I'm giving our kids what I didn't get as a high school athlete. I want to make sure I give our kids what I didn't get as a college. I was a D3 athlete. I was a decent D3 athlete, which is, it's D3. But we basically trained ourselves and finding ways for our kids to get the best opportunity, for just enjoy your high school experience, but for those that want to move on, give them every chance to be successful. But changing that, it's just meatheads in the weight room dynamic, and really going after all of our kids, I think, is really important.
I'll add on to what Glee was saying there, man. I fortunately had an unbelievable high school strength coach who just was my mentor, broke down and truly educated me on the whys behind strength training and sports performance and stuff. So I come from a very blessed situation, and he's a dear friend of mine now, and he does everything for me whenever I ask him, and I do the same thing. We're just so close. So I want to be that role model, that mentor to those kids, like how much that Power B was to me. I want my kids to know that I have their back no matter what it is in life, and I'm there forever. And I want them to know that if there was one adult that they had that was outside their circle of trust from the family side of it, I want them to think it was Coach Lane. And one thing I take pride in every day is I stand outside my door and all my kids come in, I'm fist bumping all of them. I'm giving them a compliment, saying to them, congratulations on the win last night. Hey, tough loss tonight. We'll get after it again. Things like that. Immediately communicating, making that contact so I can make sure they're getting a great session in, but more importantly, just having a great class period that day. Because again, we have kids every day to come in great, and some come in with whatever it is, bad test or home life or whatever it is. So I want them to kind of add on what Robbie was saying, the best experience possible for them. I want them to understand that it's not about winning the game, it's about winning in life. And just because you lost the game, you learn from that and you pick yourself up and keep going. I tell my kids also that it's about building confidence in yourself, and through building confidence, now you're on the right path of building success. And everybody has a different definition of what success is, but at the same time, success means you're on the right path to being the best of you and having the best life for yourself and being comfortable. And another thing I add to that is that I also talk about, what's the definition of love and rich and stuff like that. I think that way, if you speak that way to the kids and understand, hey, you don't have to follow the Webster Dictionary or Google, you can make your own definition up of what that means. And I kind of relay a little bit my home life, how I grew up with, I was very poor growing up with my family, but we had 3 farms in the family, which people would think we were rich, but we were very rich when it comes with love. And that's why I tell my kids, surround yourself with great people who love you and are passionate, who challenge you. If they're not challenging you the most, asking you to be the best, it's probably not someone you want to be around. You want to surround yourself with people who want nothing but the very best. So, and that kind of goes back to the culture thing. You've got to bring that back into as well. Love is the most important thing for these kids, man. And especially nowadays, I think more than ever.
Yeah, I think everything you guys said is unbelievable. I'm going to kind of twist it just a little bit and just talk about how do I want to make the big time for the summer? And so for the summer, I want them to have memorable moments. That's the biggest thing is we all look back at our high school years and you remember what you did in the summer. You know what I mean? You remember what town fairs you went to and all that kind of stuff, or county fairs. You remember doing those things. You remember the dog days of summer and practicing in the heat and those types of things. And So some of it you wear with a badge of honor, but then there's also some things. So them working hard and things like that, that's going to happen regardless, and then making memorable moments. So, I mean, I talked about the outdoor workouts under the bleachers and things like that. Talked about the gauntlet workouts that we do on the turf. One of the things we do really unique for our football team, and I want to carry this on because they really like it. We call it the reckoning, and it's not about wrecking them. It's more about them recognizing what they've achieved before they start the season. And so we'll do a 4 to 5 hour workout. Now, hear me out. It's all like timed with what we're doing. You know what I mean? So like we take parts of what we do with our Red Dawns, which are our Friday morning workouts, and we put into little parts of into little broken out parts within our within this 4 to 5 hour workout. And there's a lot of downtime with it, but then what we do is we have them paint their faces, cut up shirts, all that kind of stuff. We jog over to this park that's right on the river, which is only a half mile from our school, and we'll do things like throw rocks in the river, race up these different hills, throw tires up these hills, all these different things. And by doing this, it's a chance for them to really grow together, and it's something that they don't forget. And it's one of those experiences that because they've gone through it, they've recognized that who's gone through it, like it brings them together too. So I have kids, we've been doing it for 11 years. I have kids that still come back and they talk about the reckoning, even though they're coming back to watch a football game. You know, like it's been a really cool moment that we created, and I want to do with the other sports as well. But part of it is logistics and getting other coaches involved because, like I said, it's a half day event.
Man, you all have been a blessing to me tonight. I love just learning, growing, being able to, I don't know, be spurred on. There's so many things that I feel like I should implement now, right? Almost overwhelmed. So I have to figure out, sort through what that should look like. But that's awesome stuff. Listeners, there is going to be information to contact each one of these coaches in the show notes. Reach out to them about their summer programming. They'll dive into it. They'll take you through all this. You know, anytime a coach can give of their time and give of their talents in this way, I think it's pushes the profession forward. So thankful for you all. Thank you for the listeners that keep on tuning in and want to continue to learn.